Many extensions in the first week of the season, something that we don't quite see at this, I feel like, rate. Kind of a lot going on all at the same time. It's almost as if, and it's not only the same team doing it, it's a bunch of different teams. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, but we're going to go through them. I wanted to take some time here at the top of the show, talk a little bit about the young kids, the kids getting paid, the Young Buck extensions. We had 4 guys, one of which happened, I believe, yesterday or maybe early this morning. I'll be honest, I've been very busy, and I just knew that it happened. And there's 4 big ones, all guys that weren't quite free agents yet, or didn't already have a deal in place. And I want to talk to you about whether or not they are team-friendly or they are player-friendly or somewhere in between. There's very interesting, I think, elements happening here with these. So I just think it's time. It's time to talk about contracts. I mean, we got the CBA coming up, and I think that the market forces are going to change a little bit then too. So it's just something to pay attention to. But we shall see. All right, let's get into it. First contract we had San Diego Padres phenom Jackson Merrill. Jackson Merrill signs a 9-year, $135 million extension that begins next year, not this year, next year, which actually changes my analysis just a little bit. But this guy was absolutely electric last year. He was huge for their team. He is a guy that we are mentioning within the big 3 of Bogarts, of Tatis, and of Manny Machado in the future for this organization. So he is going to be there for most of the next decade into what would have been his free agency years, and he's 21 years old. But is it a player-friendly or team-friendly? Well, it's about even. I'll be honest. This is a good deal, I think, for both sides. $135 million is not something to shake a stick at. I understand he is the middle of the field position player, aka the center fielder and the shortstop, sometimes second base. But the shortstop, center fielder are usually the highest value defensive metrically, and also from a bat standpoint, you want a lot of production out of those 2 positions. So he went from he played shortstop, went to center field, picked it up immediately because of course he did, and did an amazing job. So this deal, let me break it down for you because it starts next year. He is going to have 5 years of free agency bought out. He is 21 years old, so he'll become a free agent again at 30. The reason this is even is kind of come from both directions. One, it's a $15 million advanced value or advanced annual value, so AAV. That is solid. Like a really good center fielder will get upwards of 25. But the nice thing about this deal is when it is done, he'll be 30 years old. So if his performance dictates this, he will get another opportunity to go into free agency, which is the point. That is when you make the most money. Usually signing extensions with the team that you were brought up with doesn't produce as many dollars, than signing with a team that isn't your team that you're already on. So I think him having the opportunity to go in free agency again, if he wants to, while having $135 million in the bank, is positive for him. But the team generally gets a guy for $15 million a year that could very easily become a $25 to $30 million a year player. That is why this is kind of even across the board. This is why I kind of like it. I like the idea that he's going to get a second free agency opportunity, and it doesn't affect the markets for center fielders as much either. So I enjoy that because he is 21 years old. And if you're going to do it then, and make sure you get over $100 million, please. Second up, we have Christian Campbell signing a smaller deal after just a couple weeks in the major leagues with the Boston Red Sox. 8 years, $60 million, which comes out to an AAV of just about $7.5 million, which right now that's just over about a WAR a year, 1 win above replacement. So this one kind of goes advantage team. $60 million is not a lot of money. As we see with the Ozzie Albies deal, we got even the Cunha deal. It's more in that realm. And based on what the Red Sox have said and people who've watched him play in real life, he's getting Mookie Betts comps. If that guy turns into Mookie Betts, this is wild value for the team. But I like that he took advantage of it. And again, he's 22. He's going to be a free agent at 30 again. He's going to get another opportunity for free agency. So that's why he gets a little bit on the old bar here in his direction. But for the most part, it's not a huge investment for the Red Sox. They got their second baseman. By all accounts, he's just a pure hitter, and then he's going to be a quality player moving forward. But it's just not that risky. It's just not that risky. So I like that for him. And it only buys out 2 years of his free agency because he's barely got any time in the big leagues. Third guy, Garrett Crochet. This one was interesting. Garrett Crochet, 6 years, $170 million from the Boston Red Sox. Also, this comes out to an AAV of just over $28 million, 28.3 to be exact. He is the ace of the Red Sox. So the Red Sox, check one on the Red Sox side for getting their ace. It buys out 4 years of free agency, so that is obviously a benefit for the Red Sox as well. But he will still be a free agent at 31 years old because he's currently 25. I think he just turned 26, actually. And he's going to get another opportunity at free agency as well. So that's more on his side. This is mostly a player, this is mostly a player deal because he got more money than more extension, the biggest extension that anyone's ever gotten with the amount of work he's done. He only has 224 innings and 36 starts in his career. That is the risk for the Red Sox, and that's why I give him the benefit of the doubt here. I think it's a high value contract. Sure, could he make more? Maybe. But he doesn't have the track record, and he's had injury problems to show that might not happen. So, but I think this is just necessary. I think the Red Sox had to do this, especially because Christian Campbell signed a team friendly. You can afford to then go out and get your true ace, your guy you're going to want to start in game one in any playoff series to be paid. But he got paid with very little. Usually track record's a big part of this. And for the first time in a long time, or ever, honestly, track record didn't factor into this one as much. I like it, but it's definitely Garrett won that one for sure. And lastly, Vlad Guerrero Jr. finally gets his stupid contract done so we can stop talking about it. 14 years, $500 million. This one will not be seeing another free agency most of the time. I hear you, Isaiah. This Vladdy signing is restored to hope and life. They get their centerpiece of their franchise, but this is definitely player W. This is definitely player W. $500 million is the second biggest value contract for anybody, even because there is no deferred money. It is beyond Shohei Ohtani, $700 million in real value. Excuse me, when you're firing off words like I am, you got to take a drink. And it buys out all of his free agency. He's not going to hit free agency again. And it comes out to an AAV of $35.7 million. So really can't say the benefit. Here's the benefit that the Blue Jays get. They're not going to worry about it anymore. They got their franchise player that they can build all their media around and preferably a lot of production in the middle of the order. The problem is he's a first baseman. They don't tend to age well, and this is till he's 40 years old. At some point, this is probably going to turn into a contract. It's inevitable that everyone's going to be like, kind of a lot of money for a guy who can't really move. And that's just what happens when you age. So I will definitely say Vladdy won this one. I will definitely say Vladdy won this one. But it was a necessary move for the Blue Jays. Similar to the Red Sox, they had to go do it. We've been talking about this all offseason, myself included. They had to go do this. I wish they would have done it before it all came out where they offered everyone else all the money. But I'm glad it's done, so now we don't have to talk about it anymore. And I am also really excited to bring in our first guest here on May Day. First guest ever. First time we've ever tried this little apparatus we're going to do, so cross your fingers, everyone at home. Scotty Braun is here.
Hey, you hear me?
Yes, I can. Everyone at home can hear him too. Scott Braun, host of Foul Territory and number one in all of our hearts. Thanks for coming on, man. Thanks for being the number one guest on the show.
Do I get an extension?
Wait. You got to give me an extension. What do you mean? I'm on your network right now. What are we talking about?
True.
Yeah,
I
you're the boss.
I forgot. I can't ask for my own extension.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, when I think about Vladdy Jr., I'm sure we'll get into it at some point. I bet the front office, who is that, Atkins and Shapiro, going to ownership, like, look, we got it done. Extension for us. It only cost you double when we could have done this several years ago.
Yeah. Well, you shouldn't have let Soto go first. And that all
Huge
hell broke loose.
mistake.
Well, let's talk about it a little bit. I know I just rapid fired like 4 of them real quick, and all the young guys are signing contracts. What was your first? I mean, obviously, we can start with Vlad. What was your first reaction to hearing about the Vlad news?
Yeah, Vladdy won. Vladdy wanted 500. He said it publicly. Often this stuff doesn't get that public where you actually know the exact numbers. I mean, Ken Rosenthal was so on this story that he already had that out for weeks. 35.7 at 14 would get you to 500. That's the number. Then eventually you just get that out of Vladdy where he's like, yeah, that'll get it done. And the Blue Jays are like, we already went past your value. And he's like, cool, I don't care. I'm going to publicize this. You've lost out on many other big names. You've gotten some. It's not like they had a bad offseason. It's just that the way they're aiming for players these days has not gone well for them, right? Like an Ohtani, Roki Sasaki was a tough loss for them. It would have helped if Vladdy Jr. was locked up for a while. Would it have mattered? No, he was going to sign with the Dodgers either way. But they also went after Juan Soto. And as far as we heard, they didn't go past the 700 mark. So you weren't even close. And you're showing that you're going to spend that much money on a player. Vladdy's sitting there like, oh, hey, I'm Canada's baseball son and I'm a star and I'm young and you're going to let me get to free agency? No way. So I think that he just had him. I mean, I think he had him by the balls, Trevor. And
I think that's what happened.
And he said 500's the number, baby. And when you get there, you call me and I will sign it. And I don't care how long it takes. You want to wait until June when I'm off to a great start or I'm not, whatever it is, right? Unless there was an injury, which is not as common for a position player, and he's been pretty damn durable. They were going to get screwed on this one. But the thing for me is I'm happy in the end for the Blue Jays to get him for life, right?
Mm.
But if I'm a Blue Jays fan, this is a loss for the front office because everybody has a spending limit and this is going to be an expensive player for a while. That's great. But like I mentioned at the top here, they could have had him for much less. You go back a few years ago, Ken did homework on this and said they could have put out a similar, if not probably a little lower deal than what Tatis got in 2021 in the 300s, and that would have gotten it done, right? If you put at that point 275 to 300 in front of Vladdy, I'm sure that would have gotten it done. It sounded like they kept lowballing him through the entire operation here. They delayed his service time. They lowballed him on offers compared to the market. They took him to arbitration, I think, once or twice. So they were just doing everything wrong as a front office. And then, like you mentioned, they could have done this in October and had a conversation, and it would have probably ended with, I don't know, 400. So then they cost themselves another $100 million once Soto set the market for someone of his age without a full skill set as a baseball player, right? He is not a 5-tool player. No. He is a hitting legend, but he is not a 5-tool player. So when you add it all up, huge win for Vladdy Jr., huge win for Blue Jays fans, because who cares? Big loss for the front office. And if they don't make the playoffs this year and I'm running the Blue Jays, I am sweeping that up and starting over because their farm system sucks too.
Yeah. It feels like they stumble. They're holding the bag, they're stumbling, and then they just like fumbled it right into his hands. But I can't fault it. I was a player. I got to be on the player side here. And this wasn't just the only crazy extension, in my opinion. Garrett Crochet, also unprecedented. And then contrast that with Christian Campbell a little bit because the same team. They're two very different kind of players in terms of like length of time and also dollar amounts. So how'd you feel about the Crochet and the Christian Campbell signings?
I thought Crochet did really well. Remember last year, he was getting criticized for not wanting to get moved to a team that's going to throw him in the bullpen or just mess around with him in general. I don't blame him. I mean, you can give us the pitcher perspective on this, but he had been hurt. He's on a White Sox team that does not have a great reputation for a lot of things right now as far as player development. And then you're going to ask him to move teams and get on a different plan during his breakout season when he hasn't really gotten paid much yet. No thanks. So I thought good for you for standing up for yourself. He ends up getting the trade to a destination like this. And I don't really feel like there was much of a discount here. And he had 2 years still left of team control if we're including this year. So I thought him and his team did really well on that front. I know you mentioned he set some records. He, to me, looks like an ace and to everyone else, but he does come with injury questions. So for him to secure the bag as a pitcher before you hit free agency, that was a no-brainer. If you asked me what I thought he was going to get, I thought it would have been more in the mid 100s. Instead, it gets the upper 100s. I would have guessed like 130 to 140. So good for him for landing some of that money where I think the 2 or 3 years of it gets him 30 something mil per season. So for the Red Sox, I mean, you traded a lot for this guy, keep the guy. It's fine. It's not going to crush them. Of course, you have injury concerns, but you're at least catching him early on in his career. Doesn't have crazy mileage on the arm. So fine for both sides there. And then Christian Campbell, of course, you're going to get a bargain, but you're asking a player who was a 4th or 5th round pick if he wants $60 million when he didn't even know that they traveled on a private plane and that he wouldn't have a roommate. Okay. So he's going to say yes to that. A year ago, Trevor, nobody knows who he is.
Yeah.
So I think he got lowballed, but I can't fault him.
I can't either.
I mean, he didn't know where he was going to be as a player. Like he is the kind of guy where you looked and you're like, tons of potential. Red Sox are going to work on his swing path. It either works or we never hear from him again. And now all of a sudden he's in the bigs playing on a good team and he's getting thrown $60 million. Who doesn't take that?
Oh, I, when I was playing, I would have been like hesitant. I had to look into it. But again, the fact that all these guys have they have free agency on the table still, like technically in the prime window that still exists, 28 to 32 is when you can maximize your free agency. So like, they're like, yeah, if I'm better, if I need to make more money, I have an opportunity to make more money later. If I don't, then I got 60 million. Like it's that straightforward. And also, you know who else was a 5th rounder who wasn't expected to be as good as they are? Mookie Betts. So, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that comp. They're like, we just don't want to mess this up. Maybe they're getting a little bit of like, we don't mess up the Mookie Betts thing again either. Okay, last one really quickly. Jackson Merrill, how do you feel about that one?
So I'm going to tie Campbell and Merrill together because I spoke to a couple agents behind the scenes. And like, oh, I mean, terrible job for Merrill and for Campbell. They left so much money on the table. The whole first big contract thing applies here. So I don't know really what to say, right? Again, with Jackson Merrill, loves the team, wants to win on this team. He said he's going to give them a little room for spending power. Like, okay. I mean, that's a great thing to say. He's a star. He's playing center field. That position actually usually doesn't age well getting deep into your 30s based on how much of a toll it takes. So I don't fault him for doing this. I don't fault him or his reps for getting this done either, because I think if he's so damn good, they'll keep adding an extension or two on top of what he's doing, right? He screams Padres player for life in my mind. Ken Rosenthal, I'm bringing him up again, said maybe $100 to $200 million left on the table, but you would have had to go deep into the arbitration process and then, eventually get yourself to free agency. So yeah, generally with these, it's hard not to look at them as wins for both sides. The only thing with Merrill is I think he doesn't get to free agency until 32, if he even gets there. At that point, how many teams are investing major long-term dollars in a 32-year-old center fielder? I don't care who you are. Not many, right? I mean, that you just have to play the law of averages in the past. That position just takes a hit. I'm not suddenly giving him another, he's not signing a 10-year contract at that point, even if he is a star based on how front offices evaluate. So best case scenario, he's 4 or 5 years into this thing. He's a stud. They add, 3 to 5 more years on top of that. And that's his whole career. And he ends up making 200 something million dollars instead of maybe $400 million. I mean, whatever. He could also run into a wall and it could end his career. And now he's got the security. So, I mean, you tell me, do you ever look at these and go, oh man, player got robbed. It's his first millions. He got robbed. Like, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah. I having never been offered anything remotely close to this, even before it was my time to negotiate it, I can't say that I wouldn't be like, yep, I will. Even as a starting pitcher, right? I just feel like if anything over $100 million, it's just like you can go from making over 100, or you can go to making like 20. If it doesn't work out, you're gonna make way less than that. It's not gonna be like close. It's gonna be way less if you try to go through the system. And say your 4th year, some break your leg and it never heals right, and then you made 15 million. Like you got to take 135. Christian Campbell, that type of thing. When it's a less than 10 and you're a position player, less than 10 AAV, that's when you think long and hard about it. But like if you get 15 guaranteed for 9 years every year, it just like the difference, you get diminishing returns after that. And also, like you said, he's going to hit free agency again. So he has an opportunity to correct if things are drastically different, but they're not going to be, because he's also not going to be moving out of center field. I don't hate it. And also when they sign this early, it doesn't affect markets as much as people think it does either. And that's what I always think about. I'm like, are you ruining markets for the future? And these guys are so young that they're kind of in their own category. Okay. And the last question I have before I let you go, if you had to make a prediction of these 4, which one of these do you think is most likely to have both sides benefit? Like, which one's going to work out the best for both sides?
Ooh,
By the
good
end of them.
question. I'll go Merrill. I'll go Merrill on this one because I think that it's in the right price range that, like I mentioned, he's going to get the extensions on top of it. And I'm just surprised that teams don't do this more in general. They don't grab a player who now Merrill is a prime example, already give you a star, if not superstar, first season, first week. He looks like the same guy already. Not that I think that really mattered. I'm sure they had been talking about this for a minute, but the Merrill one for me, because you're catching a center fielder not even entering his prime years, but you're going to get basically all of the prime years in this deal, unless he just falls off the face of the earth. And he's a position player. That to me looks like the biggest win. Vladdy's going to go deep into his career where you're going to get to the 38, 39 range, and who knows what he'll look like at that point. So the length, Crochet's a pitcher, arms are a ticking time bomb. I'm always going to trust a position player over a pitcher. And we just don't know Campbell enough as a player yet. So I think Merrill is the safe bet here. And I'll finish my statement with a question back to you. Why don't more teams do this? We see it frequently, but then there's still some teams that pop up where I'm like, what is going on here? Like, are offers being thrown out and we're just missing something? I mean, the Orioles are the prime example right now. Nobody of that vaunted young position player core is signed long-term. And even if you're going to blame Gunnar on betting on himself and he's a Boris guy, fine. But there's 4 or 5 other guys on that roster that could be extension worthy, and they have not signed any of them. Adley Rutschman coming off a down year sounds to me like a great time to have a conversation with him, unless you don't believe in him. And now he looks like 2 years ago Adley. Colton Cowser, who I know is hurt right now, but in the offseason, that could have been a discussion too. And I could come up with a few others. I mean, even Jackson Holiday, right? Throw a ton of money at him. Again, I think he's a Boris guy, but I just don't believe that the Orioles threw out all these extension offers to these players. And I'm wondering why you don't try and at least lock up 1 or 2 to get some cost control.
Yeah, especially with the Orioles, I'll be honest, I'm not convinced that the new ownership group is willing to. They haven't really shown me anything that they're willing to do more than the previous owner, the Angelos family was. Like, honestly, they bought it. Yeah, great. But, like, they had opportunities, all kinds of sign free agents and all kinds of stuff this offseason. They're just not doing it. So maybe they're out there. Maybe they're just not taking them and they're getting, shut down by their agents. Maybe not. I think a lot of teams, though, are the last, I think, domino to fall in the development and projectability of their players is having the confidence to then sign them long term. And I think maybe this Crochet thing and this Christian Campbell thing might get a couple teams thinking about like teams like the Twins, right? Like you got to if Royce Lewis was healthy all the time. Let's say he didn't have the injury problems he had. Like he would have been a prime candidate to get something like this. But their offers are like 4 years, 20, right? Like so, like that's just not going to happen for a position player anymore. You're not going to get a Max Kepler deal or a Jorge Blanco deal anymore. So, but if you can project and you feel comfortable in your development, and you're like, we know this guy's going to be good, even though he doesn't have a track record. I think teams are still really, really, really wanting to see track record before they make decisions like this. But I think more teams, like we saw the Red Sox, teams are going to start making more decisions based on their models and how they project these guys because they're confident in those. And we just might just be seeing that transition happening. More teams will probably follow. That's my guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. But Scott, thank you so much for joining the show, man. You were the first inaugural guest. So you can put that back there with that Emmy. I'll get you a plaque. Yeah,
give me something.
No extension, but you can get like a 3D printed plaque or something. We'll do that.
Or a Mayday hat, something like that.
Hat. Yeah, we got those. Mayday. Mayday.shop. Anyone who wants a Mayday hat. All right, guys.
I'm a company man.
Thanks, Trevor. Scott Braun joining the show.